I think what is crucial, Rahul, is reform of a paper nature, which is withdrawn, like a license was withdrawn by Dr. Manmohan Singh. Huge bandwidth. You had MRTP, Monopolies Restrictive Practices Act, withdrawn. That was easy to do. Now you're facing structural reforms. For example, there are 38 inspectors for a small enterprise which it faces. And for 5 years, we've had even BJP government, NDA government, UPA government. We will withdraw the whole structure of inspectorate system. Now we've got to get to it. As far as foreign direct investment is concerned, let's remember, unlike China, only 7-8% of our capital formation comes from foreign direct investment. Let us accept the fact that 56% of Chinese exports are produced by multinationals sitting in China. That's not the case with us. 88% of technology intensive exports of China do not come from Chinese firms, but from multinationals stationed there. India is a totally different model.
Do you feel the government is not walking fast enough to try and make the next generation of reforms happen? This government, in fact, apart from the 3G auction and the deregulation of petroleum prices, hasn't been able to even lay out a chart that these are the reforms that we intend to make happen, and this is the roadmap under which it will be achieved.
If I am to tell it very frankly, it has a very clear roadmap. The roadmap is that why should Munjals and the Ambanis be the only, lakh crore turnover people? Even the people in the government should be like that. And that's what they have done. They have created scams of unbelievable proportions at the cost of the people in this country. You cannot possibly say that 8% growth rate is great if this 8% growth rate has benefited 5% of this country. If this 8% growth rate hasn't brought out those poor from poverty, then this 8% growth rate should have been 15%. And that's a fact.
Driven by
Professor
the People's Liberation Army. We are a democracy. We will remain a democracy. If the executive has failed this time, it is the judiciary. Mind you, it is the judiciary which has come in to that vacuum. It is not the military which has walked into that vacuum, and that probably tells you everything about this democracy. I disagree completely.
So the judiciary is also dysfunctional.
No, but I think
the judiciary is also dysfunctional. Of course it is dysfunctional. If in a country to get justice, you take about 15 to 20 years. There are about 90,000 judges extra that are required to make the country's judiciary functional.
Okay.
So the judiciary doesn't
let's
function.
listen to Arun Bhatt.
Professor Chaudhary, I think you must also remember that we are a democracy. We are not living under a dictatorship like the Chinese. And the Chinese have no problems in acquiring land because the land belongs all to the government. So they can acquire the land, build roads, they can build railway systems, they can do anything. Here there is private ownership, and we have rights of private owners. So it's not as simple as it is in China, where you can just acquire whatever you want to, or the government can, and they can go ahead and do many things which we cannot do in a democracy.
Let's take some questions from the students in the audience.
Sir, Mr. Obama comes up to India and makes a very powerful statement that India has emerged. But we still, from the top to the bottom, we still deals with bureaucracy, red tapeism and corruption. So what is your view on that?
I slightly would tend to go with my other friends who are saying that, we live in a democratic situation. It's not that the government of the day has been the government all its life. There have been others also who have come and gone. And if India had such a simple recipe for success by mentioning that we will give everything to everybody and get back, the grains of development and the country as a whole will benefit, certainly the intent of everybody in government will always be to do something and to better the lot of the people. But mind you, there are some limitations. If you look at the overall social spend of the government, you look at the schemes of the government, yes, there are grey areas, there are, I would say, loopholes where the entire benefits do not go down to the last beneficiary. Again, that is a system's failure. But the fact is that in a country where we are, in the democratic traditions which we are, I think nobody can overlook the fact that you have to look after a large section of the population, and especially what you've been trying to say, that there are people who live under very, very dismal conditions. Their lot has to be improved, and that is exactly the role of government. If you see, and I can tell you one thing, if we are just going to go by theoretical numbers of growth and GDP, I think you can achieve a much higher growth of rate of GDP if you ignore that 45% and reduce the social sector spend, or you probably ignore the defense spend, or so many other things which the government is obliged to do, not because it is in government, but because I think it is a responsibility of government, and it performs. And the only reason why India has been able to succeed all these years, in spite of all our shortcomings, is that we are a democratic country.
We're heading into a very short break right now. When we come back, we'll deal with the prices crisis. We'll deal with whether a government which has some of the world's leading economists has been unable to deal with the one issue that matters most to the Aam Aadmi, which is prices. Has the government failed on that front? Do they have a strategy in the budget and beyond to deal with the prices crisis?